Let's hear it from one on state.
Yeah, I guess we'll call the meeting to order at 5:06 PM with roll call. Bill? Here. Glenn? Are you there, Glenn?
Not be back.
He must have stepped away for a moment. Gene's here. Alex?
Here. I'm gonna send him this.
Maybe give Glenn a minute.
BJ was out of town for this meeting.
Right. Glenn, are you on? Well, while we're waiting, I guess since we do have a quorum, can we get approval of some minutes?
I would move to approve the agenda, except possibly
Agenda.
trying to move the item number 9 earlier in the meeting if possible.
Okay, does anybody have a issue with that?
No.
Glenn, are you back yet? Okay,
So I'll move that. We approve the
Does that need a
agenda with that
motion?
change.
and
I'll second it.
okay, motion and second, open for discussion. Does anybody in the public have a?
Michael Osborne is here to represent Glenn is back, so, do you wanna ask Glenn if he's
There you are, Glenn.
revising the agenda?
We're gonna, Glenn, I made a motion to move item 9 earlier in the meeting on the agenda approval.
Sure, that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Let's move on to approval of minutes for the April 4th and April 10th, the special meeting and regular meeting. Has everybody read those? And do you have any corrections or suggestions?
I would move to approve the minutes from February 13th, March 3rd, and March 13th. Oh, no, those are to be signed.
Yes, please,
Those are not the ones we're approving,
it would be for the April 4th and April 10th.
April 4th and April 10th. I would move to approve the minutes for April 4th and April 10th.
Got a motion? Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Motion on the second. Any discussion?
I just have one, have we gotten any bids back on the demolition of on the smaller house?
Justin?
You're muted.
No,
Well,
not yet.
Okay, hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed?
aye.
Opposed or in favor?
Aye.
He's in favor.
Oh. Okay.
I'm in favor of approving the minutes, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. We like to limit public comment to 3 minutes. But would anybody like to speak under public comment?
I would if I can get a chance.
You got 3 minutes, Carl, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Gene. Well, congratulations to everybody who won the election. I look forward to talking to all of you as a ratepayer. So I'm sure we'll be chatting more in the future. I guess I did have a question. I don't understand, about the election, which I lost. I don't understand I guess what I would like to ask is, please tell me the decision-making process for deciding not to issue a news release about the upcoming election and to not post anything to Facebook and to not send out any kind of notification on Driver. Thank you. That's it.
Do I understand your question then? You're wondering why the entire election process wasn't advertise, for lack of a better word, better? Is that what you're asking?
Specifically Facebook, which wouldn't cost anything. A news release, which wouldn't cost anything. And I don't know about Dropper if there's a cost associated with that at all. I'm just wondering why no effort was made to try to increase turnout.
Well, I guess I can just speak from a little bit of experience. I think, as you know, somebody had made the comment that we hadn't had an election in 14 years. And that was because there were no more candidates than there were open seats. So instead of spending 60 grand or whatever on an election, those were just appointed because there's really no other option. But when there are more candidates than seats, we've done the same thing we have for many decades. Could we, and other board members or Justin or Renee chime in, but there's no decision that I'm aware of where we said we're not going to do Facebook or we're not going to do Instagram or TikTok. It's just usually, as I recall, even the Pagosa Sun or the Pagosa Daily Post, says something about it. So I don't know if that answers your question, and Justin and Renee or anybody else, please chime in.
Well, I would also add that we moved, this from an election that was typically decided by 200 voters who showed up at the PAWS facilities to one where we undertook the expense to send everybody a ballot. So over 8,000 ballots were sent out. So that's about as transparent and as active. That's pretty widespread attempt to get feedback. Secondly, we're not a cooperative and we're not a business association, and we're limited really in the politicking that we can do. There are legal requirements of placing notices of election in the newspaper, but beyond that, it's really up to the candidates to make an election an election. PAWS can't really be doing outreach. It's really up to the candidates to do the outreach and to get on Facebook and TikTok and take out ads in the paper and take out ads on the radio station and to do something as basic as walk around and knock on doors and introduce yourself. So I think you go down that road of advertising your election in all these different social media platforms, and you run the real risk of influencing your election in a way. So I'm glad we got candidates, and I'm glad we got a certain response. But in the future, I really think it's the responsibility of candidates and their supporters to create their election.
Glenn, thanks. Carl, I don't know if that answered your question or not. I hope it did.
No,
but
it doesn't. You could have posted the legal notice on Facebook. You could have sent out a press release with the
Put up
legal
banners
notice.
all over town too, but
we
That could have happened, and it didn't. I'm just,
and we thank you for your input. The 3 minutes, however, is up. So,
Thank you.
is there any other public comment? Yes, Chief.
I did want to say something. I did get a chance to introduce myself earlier. I'm here tonight for two different reasons. Some for the stuff on the agenda, but really I want to come in, introduce myself to the board, and move forward. We're both special districts. Lately, the last few months, it's kind of almost pinned us against each other, and I don't want that to happen. We should be working for the community together, and so I want to try to bridge that gap, with you guys and move forward together. So that's another reason why I'm here. So.
I believe, I know that's my feeling as well, and I think it's the feeling of the rest of the board too. So thanks for taking the effort and coming in.
Yep.
And thanks for showing up at the town council meeting as well. That was appreciated.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, let's go on down to, the consideration of we're gonna
Down to number 9.
move to number 9, okay? We have a consideration of petition for inclusion for 1061 Cloman Boulevard, Pagosa Springs, 81147, which is Intermountain Propane
I think
LLC.
we were 9 is, I thought,
I thought 9
We were gonna
was,
do the
was
town.
the town. I thought 9.
No, 9 is the,
Which
I
one is
think
the
our
town?
intent was to do the town.
Yeah.
first,
That was my
I agree
intent.
with that as well.
okay,
And we'll have the minutes.
my apologies, let's go to number 10,
Sorry about that.
which is consideration of expedited review of modeling request and mainline extension agreement for new expanded fire lines and 13 new fire hydrants, town of Pagosa. James Dickoff, good to see you, old friend.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me this evening.
And I think the floor is probably yours.
Do you, so appropriate to stand or should I sit? Whatever's comfortable.
Whatever you're most comfortable.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Can I pass these out?
Oh, yeah, please do.
And I apologize, I wasn't prepared to put something in your packet, but I did send this via email to Justin and Glenn.
Oh, great.
Via email, so Glenn and Justin, sorry for the short, you probably received it about an hour or so ago. Well, thanks again for having me, and I also want to congratulate the elected on the new board, and thank you for your service. We all understand this is a volunteer position that you're serving the community and your ratepayers, so I definitely appreciate your willingness to step up, and it's great to see Bruce elected as well onto the board, so we appreciate everybody stepping up and volunteering their time. So the purpose of my agenda item this evening is just to review the town's desire to improve some fire hydrant infrastructure downtown in coordination with the CDOT reconstruction project. I think, you know, we're all aware that we have limited fire hydrants downtown. And we've been discussing this for a couple of years, actually. You know, the CDOT design plans have been occurring over the last 10 years. And it was the third bid time where it finally got awarded to actually move forward. So the project's been on and off for quite some time. And certainly when we got notice in December that it was actually moving forward, so we had to get back into it and really start working on fine tuning some of our design plans. You know, the town is investing quite a bit into the Main Street project and our side street improvements, because this is a really opportune time to do it. If we did it later, it would be twice as expensive. So the town is obligating about $7.5 million in the Main Street reconstruction project, whether it's in the actual CDOT right of way or including sidewalks and streetlights and some of the storm sewer improvements, but also our side street interfaces with the highway projects. So we're willing to take the opportunity to do as much as we can, because it'll be double or more to do any of these improvements in the future, including adding new fire lines and fire hydrants along the main street. As part of the Main Street reconstruction project, obviously the new pavement is going to be 9.5 inches of concrete. So we really want to take care of the infrastructure, which is happening now with sewer lines and water lines, as you are well aware. And over the course of a couple of years now, we've been talking through the joint utility meetings. We meet pretty much monthly, typically take a break in the winter time. But we just had our first meeting yesterday, I believe, for the season. And that joint utility committee meeting is really for the purpose of ensuring we have government representatives and utility provider representatives to talk about our future projects. So we're coordinating our efforts and we're keeping everybody's infrastructure in mind, as well as finding ways to inform our contractors and our builders to really get them calling 811, get their locates done, but also just because there's locates on the ground to still dig cautiously, because those locates are general locates. And sometimes, you know, locators don't get it quite right. So we work on trying to educate our building community to make sure they're doing things cautiously when they're digging in the right of way or around any marked flags or unmarked areas as well. With that said, the fire hydrant, lack of fire hydrants on the main street has come up a number of times in that meeting. And, certainly, it's always been cost prohibitive, knowing that hopefully this project with CDOT was eventually gonna occur, and that would be the opportune time. And, working with the fire district, who is regular represented at the joint utility committee meetings, as well as PAWS staff. Art is typically always there. Justin will attend at some times. It just became apparent as the project was awarded that I needed to dive into it and bring this back to light and get it kind of wrangled together so that we can get it included. So currently, what I'm proposing tonight is actually included in our contract with WW Clyde, who is also the CDOT contractor, to do that $7.5 million worth of work along that corridor. They're currently working on the 100 block and the 200 blocks, really getting that infrastructure taken care of, the towns replacing all the sewer service lines to the private properties. That's expected to be finished generally next 3 or 4 weeks, and at that time, they're gonna start bringing their concrete paving machine in to start paving those 2 blocks. So I know this is short notice because it took a little bit of time to wrangle all this together. I think I've brought this back to Justin maybe 3 or maybe 4 months ago, just to kind of talk about this. I met with Art a couple times. We kind of sat down, discussed where the current locations on Main Street are, the current hydrant locations, and looking at where the water lines were to kind of reduce our investment on getting more fire hydrants and reducing our fire line expenses. One of the things that is occurring as part of this project is we only have 1 hydrant on the 400 block street frontage now. And everybody's probably aware it's on the corner in front of Treasures store there, Treasures of the Rockies. And that hydrant has always been getting clipped by trailer tires from big trucks going around the corner there. So we've always envisioned that hydrant moving in one direction or the other. The water line that services that hydrant from the bell tower property, about 265 feet west, is an old water line, and I know PAWS wants to vacate that line. And in doing so, they're moving that hydrant back to the bell tower lot. So 265 feet to the west. But it leaves a pretty big void on that street frontage. We will have 0 hydrants on street frontage of the entire 400 block between the Pagosa Alley all the way to past Hot Springs Boulevard, actually, over towards 3rd Street. So our intent and our proposal is to install in this one area, and I did provide a map for you to kind of look at, is to install a loop around from the bell tower coming up to the 400 block in front of all the 400 block businesses and then back up 4th Street. And we're doing a loop because we know that dead ends are not favorable, right? And we really need more than just 1 fire hydrant on Main Street. And moving the one we have now 265 feet away from Main Street really just creates a concern that we really have limited ability to fight fires on that 400 block. There is 1 hydrant in the alley in the 400 block, but if you go back there, you'll see it's just littered with overhead power lines. So the fire district would find it pretty complicated to fight any fires with their ladder truck back there, for example. And, the fire may not be in the alley, it may be on the street front. It really requires a lot of line. And I don't want to speak for the fire department. Robert, you can jump in anytime. But with that said, with that loop in place, we figured, hey, let's get, 1 not on the corner, but close to the corner where the one's being relocated, 1 mid-block, and then 1 over at 4th Street there as well. And then we would loop back to the alley line, and I think the alley is an 8-inch line. We're proposing the same spec fire hydrants that PAWS is spec'ing for the replacements on Main Street. We are proposing 6-inch HDPE fire lines, so those are obviously have welded joints instead of mechanical joints, which should last a lot longer, and HDPE fittings as well. So we worked with Art on that recently. Sure, we got the right materials spec. We have not ordered those materials yet, based on we realized. I would say I've been talking to Justin for a while, and he probably told me, "Hey, don't forget, you need to apply for this," but it didn't come really to my attention until Monday when I get back into the country. I needed to go through the modeling process. So we are in the process right now. Davis Engineering, Mike Davis is here. He's gonna finish the design plans that are needed to submit for our application. And those, of course, will be forwarded to Steve Omar for his review. I know that Mike has had conversations with Steve to better understand exactly what he needs to do his modeling review for the application, and the town will pay the fees for that application. That's just the 400 block. So there's also other deficiencies. I mean, typically, I think talking to Kelly Robertson, our fire captain, according to the International Fire Code, for areas where the flow rate is below 1,750 gallons per minute, I'll get it. Typically, you want your hydrant spacing no further than 500 feet away. Downtown, we're under the understanding that currently we have probably in excess of 1,000 or a little bit more than that. So right now, we're kind of looking at that 500-foot increment as best we can. The exact placements are kind of approximate on this map because a lot of that is going to be field fitted as far as where the other utility conflicts are. So we're not sticking a hydrant over a sewer line, for example. So what you see here are estimate locations. We can get more precise as we go, as CDOT contractor progresses through the highway project. We are getting more definitive locations where the water lines are, where the sewer lines are, where any underground electric lines are, and those are areas we're going to avoid as well. So as they progress through the project, we'll know more specifically where those conflicts are, so we're not designing a hydrant over a conflict, for example. So in your map, I kind of made some stars, and this is actually a map that Kelly Robertson had produced for me probably a year or so ago, just identifying what she thought would be ideal locations. We may have made some modifications to this based on some conflicts we were aware of at the time. But I can walk through this a little bit too, just starting at 5th Street. So there is an existing water line at 5th, the southeast corner of 5th Street. What we're proposing is just bringing a vertical line, tying into the current water line and bringing a vertical line up to serve that hydrant. There's a star there at the bell tower, which is just across the street there. That's going to be the new location of the relocated hydrant that's being moved from the circle there, just on that corner there.
Hasn't that hydrant been moved already?
No, it has not been moved unless a truck moved it today, but no, it's still there, but it may have, I don't think it has been moved yet.
I don't believe so.
Justin?
No.
That hydrant is still there?
At Treasures?
Can't hear
Sorry,
you.
yeah, no, the hydrant is still there, but it is planned on being moved. I don't know what the schedule of it is.
Okay.
And right now, there is also what we're trying to do is get some lines, some hydrants on both sides, and it may not work out that way, but that's the intent. Certainly, if it's a big emergency, the fire department's responding to, the roads are going to be closed just because of emergency equipment getting to the large fire. There is kind of a deficiency over by the courthouse, but that hydrant there on the southeast corner of 5th Street will certainly help. And the intent of this is really to identify locations that are going to be interfacing with the highway project. There's certainly more hydrants we wish we could include, but really we're focusing on the main street. So again, 3 hydrants kind of all in that 400 block between the corner and 4th Street. We looked at potentially one across the street there in what is called Goodman Park, across the street from Goodman department store there. As we head east, and again, this map does include the existing hydrants that PAWS has. As we head east, there's a water line that exists at the western access to the Humane Society parking lot there. And that'll just be a vertical pipe down to the existing water line. That'll be a pretty easy one. And we're looking at some mid-blocks. So between 3rd and 2nd, we're looking at a mid-block hydrant on the north side, another mid-block on the south side. And as we move to between 1st and 2nd Street there, we're looking at mid-block hydrants on the north and the south side. And then at First Street, potentially a hydrant on the south side as well. So those are generally the hydrants we're proposing to do in this project. Our bid price for installing those hydrants is about $1.4 million, the hydrants and the fire lines. And town council did approve the expenditure of that to improve that fire hydrant infrastructure for the downtown district. So really the intent is to share what our proposal is, and we realize that this may be short notice for you. We have been talking about this for a couple of years. It's just since the project was definitively moved forward in December, it was time to pull together all the parts and pieces that the town is doing, and this is one of those. So it is lagging maybe a little bit for full design and whatnot, but we do want to take advantage of this opportunity. Certainly, we're not unusual with any other old downtown district. You know, none of them likely meet current codes, right? And it's just the way it is. But this is an opportunity for us to, even though we may not meet the letter of the code, at least we're improving the situation substantially by this investment. So even if there's hydrant or areas of downtown, for example, that might only get 500 or 750 gallons per minute, it's certainly going to be better to have a hydrant with water versus no hydrant at all. So we realize the infrastructure is old, but I believe downtown has pretty good water pressure, and the tank on Reservoir Hill provides quite a bit of head pressure to service some of those lines downtown. We know that the modeling process may bring to light some deficiencies, but our hope is to get these installed along with the project. Again, if we do it afterwards, it likely will never happen because the cost to do so will be pretty prohibitive down the road. Let's see here. Like I mentioned, Michael finished those design plans. We'll get the application submitted so those can be forwarded to your engineer. I think Mike had some pretty good discussions, which brought to light, that there shouldn't be any issues with this. And realistically, if you think about, even if we didn't put any of these hydrants in, if the fire district has a fire downtown, they're gonna hook up to the closest fire hydrant, they're gonna turn it all the way on, and they're gonna use as much water as that hydrant's gonna provide to fight the fire they're fighting. So if you look at, the load, if you will, I realize modeling is needed for additional lines because you are adding additional lines, it may take additional pressure or whatnot. I'm not the expert on that. I'm gonna leave that to Mike and Steve Omar. But regardless, if it's a new hydrant or an old hydrant, the fire district's gonna open that thing up wide open and use as much water as they possibly can. So we aren't budgeted for making huge infrastructure improvements that'll better serve the downtown district, other than installing these fire hydrants. And it sounds like this proposal is just presented a lot of questions for the board, and wanted to take the opportunity to present what our proposal is, and the town is paying for this as part of our improvements along the CDOT right away downtown. And I want to offer any input that Mike or Robert might have as well.
Yeah, I think just some questions and clarification, typically there's kind of two parts to the modeling. One is what's the impact to the system, right? Well, there's no impact as far as additional demand. This is purely for emergency purposes. So no impact as far as that goes. And as with the one loop that would be installed, there would actually be some potential benefit to the system in that it could improve fire flows in the vicinity and improve circulation in the existing network. So really the only downfall, if you will, is that it's additional infrastructure ultimately that would be owned by Pagosa area. Then just another question, normally we would install valves for fire hydrant laterals close to the mains so that you could shut down that lateral, as much as possible in entirety. But in this case, it might be beneficial to actually have those valves for the hydrants close to the hydrants and not in the highway. So that's something that we would want to get clarification from the district early on. But it seems like there's definitely some benefit to not having the valves all out in the highway. And then as far as plans, what we had proposed to do was just take the CDOT plans and essentially incorporate the additional water lines on the CDOT plans. So, I don't necessarily think we need to resurvey the whole town for doing this water design. It's basically, with CDOT having located most of the utilities to the best of their ability, it's going to give us the best head start to get positioned as best as we can. And like James says, if there are issues in the field that would require adjustment, and one of the other things that we plan on doing is going out and laying out roughly where we have initially showed these hydrants to be located to make that first blush pass, to see if, hey, we should adjust this to get it, out of somebody's doorway, or get it, slightly moved for some obvious reason on the surface. So that's kind of our plan. But yeah, if we definitely, as far as the valve locations, I think that would be good information to have so that we can give the contractor the best information possible initially as to what the installation is going to entail.
Just for us, having more water down there and access to it is huge. I know there's been a lot of questions about fire flow and all that with different things. I mean, we're realistic. We know you can't just magically make a bunch of water come out of these hydrants, but having water there, what we have available in those lines, would be big for us. We don't have easy access to the river, and running hoses from the hydrants that are ways away makes it a little bit challenging. So this makes a big impact for not just fire department, but business owners and everything downtown if we're able to get these hydrants put in.
And I guess I would just add to the modeling, and that would be, is modeling absolutely necessary for this? If the fire department's not holding us to a fire flow, really that's going to be the only additional information we would get out of the model is, what's the theoretical maximum fire flow available at these hydrants?
Well, thanks. Thanks for all your input. To me, it raises just a couple questions. But does anybody else on the board have any questions or comments? Why don't you go first? Okay. I couldn't agree more, Chief. The only thing that sticks out in my mind is someone's going to get sued. If Main Street burns down, someone's going to get sued. And I hate to say that, it would never happen, but we're not in the firefighting or fire design business. We can't serve two masters. We by law have to follow Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's rules. In downtown, it's probably not a big issue, but in outlying areas it is. Amount of chlorine and then DPDs and all kinds of other potability issues. So when somebody says, it's okay, I would feel better if that's in writing. I just don't want to have the district take on any further liability than it already has. We're not the experts. If you and your board say, no, I want 1,750 gallons a minute. If we've got a letter or something official from somebody saying, yeah, that's what we want, then and if we can't supply it, we can't provide a letter to either the town or the county saying, yes, we'll serve you, because we can't do what's being asked of us. So it's kind of a conundrum. And like you said, when you came in, I think we all want to work together as best we can. But we can't take on any liability for our customers. Just because it's the right thing to do. That's why we've been elected, I think, is to keep the best interest of the district in mind at all times and work with other entities for sure. And I mean, there are other ways to get around this. Mike, you brought up a good question. Why do we need the model if it's okay with the fire district? And if it is okay with this district, why do we need the model? That's a good question. Well, I'll leave it at that for the moment and see if anybody else has any thoughts.
Yeah, I do understand what he's saying about a lawsuit. If the code says 1750 and we don't get something hard in writing from your board, your fire marshal's office, I'm not sure who that needs to go through. But saying, yes, we accept these hydrants as they are and are taking the ownership on it, we will get sued. I mean, that's a fact. Somebody loses their business downtown. And they find out that hydrant is putting out 700 gallons per minute, they're gonna have some questions for us, and their lawyers are gonna eat that up. So we need no liability in this, as far as being able to provide adequate water. It is what it is, and that's not our problem at all. Is how I would see that going forward.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is going in there, if we can put these hydrants in, getting the flows off there and setting that baseline, that's what it needs to be at. Kind of from a maintenance standard. I mean, we need to know too what those flows are at some point, so that way we've got a better idea of how to be able to do stuff. But having, 500, 700 gallons a minute of water as opposed to nothing can make a huge difference for us. And I'd be willing to work with them. We can write a letter saying that we accept these flows on these hydrants when they're put in. Because I mean, I'm realistic. There's no way you're going to get 1,750 gallons per minute out of those hydrants. It's just not possible. The fire code does have some provisions in there. If the system cannot meet that, we've got some provisions that we can go to. There's a whole NFPA 1142 which addresses rural water systems. This is a rural water system.
What is that NFPA?
1142.
1142.
And that addresses a lot of the different water systems when they can't meet that demand. We're not a city with 16, 12 and 16-inch mains. We're a rural system, and the fact of the matter is, I'm pretty pleased by how much coverage we have that PAWS has, in this area. That's no easy feat over the years. Yes, there's some, deficiencies over the years, maybe some different things have gone in there, but that's all part of growing. So we're happy to have that much water. I've never been in a place that's expanded that far on that. So, come back to these hydrants, just having some more accessible water is a big thing, for us. And like I said, we can, I'd be willing to write a letter accepting those, and that would come from me, those hydrants and those flows.
Would you like to see a model so you know what you're approving or forgiving?
So a model would be great, but I hate to, we're kind of at this weird thing, because a model would be good for the future, but also modeling kind of holds up the potential of some of the ones that might go across the street too. So we're kind of.
Yeah, and the model's theoretic. I mean, yeah, it's gonna give you a number, but it is what it is. And so until we go flow test it and we measure that residual pressure and we extrapolate, we don't know what that, fire flow is until that happens.
Well, but we should know plus or minus 20%.
Yeah, maybe.
If the model's calibrated correctly,
Maybe.
hopefully.
You never know when a valve's pinched, or you never know when a line's an 8-inch when your model shows it's a
And
6-inch.
that's why the model has so much value.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many water leaks I've been on
Oh, yeah.
at 4 a.m. and you look at the guy, did you open that valve all the way? Yeah,
Yeah, again, the modeling's fine. I mean, the issue at this point obviously is time. It would be really unfortunate if WW Clyde says, you know what, we're starting paving. Sorry, guys, you're out. And that's what we don't want to get to. And And I know it's not Steve Omer or, you know, his company's issue whatsoever. I would hate for the modeling to be the reason it doesn't get done if the fire department's willing to accept whatever the fire flow is.
Okay, couple questions being, this haunts me, being an old firefighter and not a very good one. Years and years ago, we did tanker shuttles until we just couldn't do them anymore. And I think we did that twice in 10 years to the ISO, and that's how we dropped the rating for the bulk of the district down to back then it was called a 5. I don't know what it's called now. How does, and at that time, we bought more tankers and the canvas holding tanks and all that. How do things like that, you know, if you can't get enough water out of that hydrant, but you can drive 1 or 2 or 3 miles away, fill that tanker up and just keep on filling those portable tanks up, how does that assist? Because I've even got a document somewhere that said, hell yeah, that's the reason we did it. And with a well, I mean, if the world was perfect, everything goes perfectly, but if not, a well-devised tanker shuttle, if I read it right, they said is just about the equivalent of having a hydrant.
So,
And then the other quick question, let's say a new business goes in on Main Street. Whether it's on a vacant lot or an existing building that's changing use. How does either a tanker shuttle and or allowing or requiring that building to be sprinklered, what does that do to the fire flow requirement? I would hope it would reduce it, but I don't know.
yeah, so a couple things to address. So, you know, tender shuttles, when we're out there doing that, is typically stop outside of 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant. That's what ISO uses as our base thing, is anything outside of the 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant is a higher number. You know, so right now in town, we're at 3. If you get outside of town, it goes higher. It really doesn't matter how many tenders we have running, how good that is. It's just fact of matter. Their big things is, you know, first of all, the lowest number is within 1,000 feet of a hydrant. Then the next number is within 5 miles of a fire station. You know, and that's kind of the things. Anything outside of 5 miles from a fire station and farther than 1,000 feet away from a hydrant is already the worst class you can get. And that's just part of it with that. You know, so fire hydrants are key for ISO. That's going to be a lot lower. You know, if we've got that better spacing, we're within 1,000 feet of those fire hydrants for those businesses. Now for the other portion of that, when we get sprinkler building, a lot of times, so depending which model we look at, that cuts the needed fire flow down from that fire hydrant when we have a sprinkler building. So depending which one you go by, if you go to buy an FPA, a lot of that's 75% possibly of that fire flow needed than out of the hydrants when we have sprinkler buildings.
And one thing to keep in mind, new construction, they're required to have whatever fire flow is determined appropriate for that type of construction. So if a new skyscraper goes in on the highway, they're gonna have to, you know, either improve the infrastructure or have on-site infrastructure to support whatever the fire department calls for, again, based on their construction.
Yeah, I'm glad you said whatever the fire department calls for, because the local fire official has total full authority to enforce more strict than the fire code or less strict. And that's because local authority needs to come from local. That's the way I feel, not New York City or LA. Another question just comes up in my tiny little mind. And I haven't been to any of these meetings. I think Alex has been to a lot of them, maybe Bill. Have you seen the plans? Have you approved the locations? Generally, I know you might have to move it away from the street light or something, but you know, have you been asked to put your name on the line saying, yep, we approve this?
So we've been in communications with that. I've reviewed the maps. A lot of that has been done with our fire marshal in the town, but I do agree with those locations and spacing. I think that would be a great thing for that.
Mr. Chair. Right? Justin and I had discussed the timing is your biggest issue. right? And the modeling, you can go back and forth whether it's valid, it's not valid, you need it, you don't need it. But you wouldn't need to go through pause process if you put the hydrants on the town service lines. And Justin has said that he would be okay with that. And then you do not convey them to us.
What do you mean the town service lines?
Any of the town service lines that you could access, and you would run those lines and extend your service lines to the hydrants. And then you just don't convey them to us and pause isn't involved.
I don't think that's even possible.
What sounds?
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be the service lines. You'd still, it'd go through your design. So the new 6-inch lines like you're showing on the plan would essentially be considered a service line.
Oh, I got
And the town would retain ownership of those lines and the hydrants connected to those new lines.
And we could work with you on how to configure that. Justin could work with you on how to configure that. But then you would avoid the modeling and you wouldn't convey them to us. You would just.
Well, not only would you avoid the modeling, you'd also avoid the mainline extension request, which takes board approval, which is only done during, regular scheduled board meetings. So that would also, it would alleviate both of those issues, and both of those issues are going to delay the overall project.
And I know I believe I fully understand what a travesty it would be to miss this WW Clyde opportunity. But until tonight, the only document I'd seen is a CDOT drawing with, where lines might go. And now tonight, of course, we've got James's much better description and picture. But I don't know.
Can I ask a couple questions? So as I'm hearing what Justin's comment was, the only modeling that we have to do that is required would be the new line that's running across, running along the 400 block. Is that what I'm understanding? That the other lines are already in place and we're just attaching hydrants to them? So there's no modeling involved on first, the 100 and 200 blocks?
In theory, typically we run the model so we know what each of those hydrants can flow before it's done, to make sure that it's there. And if, let's say that far end hydrant can't hit the flow that the fire department, assuming the fire department required a flow, we'd want to know what that is up front. So if it doesn't meet it, we can tell the developer, we can work with the developer to upgrade our infrastructure to meet that flow that's required. The fire department not requiring a flow alleviates that, I agree. But however that it works to make sure that in 20 years, we're not told you shouldn't have done that. I'm not sure how we do that. That's more of a legal issue, but that's why we run the model. So no, we would, in a typical infrastructure upgrade development, we would want to model each of those hydrants, and every piece of new infrastructure that pauses is eventually going to take ownership of.
Okay, so and another question for you, Justin. We're running new water lines, as I understand it, as well. Have we modeled those new water lines, or are they just replacements, or are they feeding, or what's happening with PAWS along the same lines?
We're just replacing existing water lines.
With the same
in some
size
cases, same size or larger.
Are those the same pipes that they're going to be hooking up their hydrants to?
In some cases, yes.
So do we have models for that?
Well, we have our existing model. So we have our existing model that includes that existing infrastructure. That's all part of the model.
So is it any help to them that the fact that we are putting in new lines, or is it not any help at all?
Oh, certainly it's going to be new help. It's going to, a new, those lines are probably at least 60 years old. I don't know exactly how old, but I'd be willing to bet they're at least 60 years old. And when you have water going through 60 lines that long, you get scaling and stuff like that. So a new line, a brand new line of the same diameter is likely going to have less friction losses, which is going to increase flow. And then in many cases, we're increasing the size of that line, which even decreases the friction more, which increases the flow. So just by what we're doing, we're going to help flows in the downtown area somewhat. We're certainly not hurting the flow. We're increasing it more than we're hurting it. That's for sure.
Okay, so this question's for Mike.
Mhm.
Can you do the modeling?
I don't want to. We'd have
But
to,
can you?
yeah, we can. I mean, we
I mean,
built
can
the
you get
original
the
model.
model from Steve?
No, we can't do
You
that.
can't do that. Okay.
That'd be pretty difficult for them to get up to speed on the model and all that. It'd probably take him longer than it would Plummer
Yeah.
to do it.
Just asking.
Yeah, it'd definitely be
Okay.
more efficient.
I just have a couple questions. I'm kind of the engineering dummy, but sometimes, like in these situations, sometimes the dummy can help. One is concrete going down? I mean, realistically, when do you have to get these approvals and be ready to go?
Well, I think it's gonna be progression, right? So right now, all the infrastructure is being worked on the 100 and 200 block. So plan B at this point would be to take Justin's recommendation of just doing, if we don't have approval to run a line across the highway. So as soon as we run a line across the highway, that requires modeling according to Justin. So if we're not prepared to do that, then we'll just do the north side hydrants. Not ideal, but it's an improvement. So what I'm getting to, Glenn, is so once they get all the infrastructure taken care of in the 100, 200 block, they're gonna come through and pave that. It's expected it could be 3, 4, 5 weeks at the max, it sounds like right now, working with the contractor.
Okay. And now when I look at, say, I'm just comparing it, say, to the modeling that was done for the Cloman project, the propane project. And there are two different models. And one is the model for actual daily and peak use of water and wastewater. And those are very complicated models. And on the wastewater side of things, it's extremely complicated. But yet the modeling for the hydrants was to go to the nearest hydrant and to see what the pressures were and kind of work off of that. So we have existing hydrants downtown. The problem is we don't have as many as would be optimal. So is there a modeling that can be done that's just based on the flows from the existing hydrants, with the assumption that you're probably going to be working up a fire with 1 or 2 hydrants, whether you have 5 or whether you have 17? It's just better to have 17. What are the flows right now on the hydrants downtown? And
So
wouldn't that be?
Anecdotally, so yes,
Yeah.
The model, whether we run 117, it takes about the same amount of time.
Right.
The issue is the staffing that our contractor, Plummer Engineering, has to get that done. That's what's delaying this.
Right.
Anecdotally, that hydrant that's getting ready to be moved can do 1,000 gallons a minute. Now, anecdotally for pause means that's what Art says. It's a fancy way of saying that's what Art says. So that's where we're at right now. I'd asked CDOT and the contractor at a meeting yesterday if we could flow test it, but they really didn't want to do that because it's, as you've seen, it's all torn up and it would create a big mud
Right.
pit and stuff
Okay.
like
So
that.
that's.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if you flow tested the existing and if you operate on the assumption that with these replacements and all the arterial sclerosis is going to be fixed, that if you're getting 1,000 and the fire district then were to say they understand that the flows could be as low as 700, but taking a big picture view of the total benefit of the package, the fire district would say, we'll sign on and we'll put our stamp of approval on this. Maybe that's a way forward.
Yeah, my guess is that all of those hydrants are gonna flow 1,000 or more. First of all, the one if you're talking about the one at the sharp corner, I think that's fire hydrant maybe on a 4-inch line. So it's already choked down. All of these new ones will be on 6-inch lines, and all of these new ones will also be on lines that are looped, not dead end lines. So, the furthest they're gonna be away from the main is across the highway, right? So, 60 feet or something from the main. So my guess is that most of them are gonna flow 1,000 or more, and I'm talking with residual 20 PSI, so again, I don't know what the fire department would like to see, but there's gonna be pretty good flowing hydrants all downtowns.
Justin? Is there something specific that the board needs to do today that the staff can't do?
Well, I think we'd like to get direction if the board would like us not to follow our typical protocols. For instance, if we don't want to model it, we'd want to know that. And if you don't want to do the mainline extension request, we'd want to know that. Let me give you a kind of a background how this usually goes if a new development's going in. So typically, and these are usually done in series, but there's nothing that says that some of them can't be done in parallel. We'd get engineered plans that follow PAWS's details and specs, and those details and specs were written by Davis Engineering, so there's very little doubt in my mind that the plans he puts together won't follow those. The next step is they do a modeling request, and included in that would be what the fire department dictates is necessary fire flow. We would calculate with some of our spreadsheets what that diurnal water usage would be, but in this case, it's only fire flow. And assuming that it meets the request from the fire department, then they're done. If it doesn't meet those flows, pressures, or duration, we would work with the developer to come up with what upgrades to our infrastructure is necessary to meet those requirements. Assuming that's all done, then there's a mainline extension request, and that goes to the board. So all mainline extensions at this point, have to be approved by the board. Once that's done, construction starts. PAWS does inspections on that to ensure that they are being constructed per the plans. Once construction's done, the developer will quit claim all that infrastructure over to PAWS. And that will include a 2-year warranty bond. So if anything breaks within the 2 years, the warranty bond takes care of that. But at that point, PAWS accepts ownership of that infrastructure. And at that time, PAWS is now, from that point forward, responsible for maintenance, repair, and upgrades, and all the risks, liabilities, and operational costs of that infrastructure. So that's our typical use. And remember, in most cases, included with that is capital investment fees and usually more EUs, which increases our monthly billing. In this case, we're not getting any of those benefits. We're just getting the maintenance, repair, and upgrade requirements. But that's the typical steps that we use to take on infrastructure from a developer. So if we want to skip any of those steps, I think that's kind of a board action to not require modeling, to not require the mainline extension protocols. Certainly, engineered plans are going to happen. I can't see CDOT approving it without engineered plans, and we couldn't accept it because I think as Gene has pointed out, CDPHE requires all of our water infrastructure to be designed by a registered engineer. And then, of course, during construction, we want it constructed per the plans. But any of those other steps besides those two, I think the board has discretion to waive if they see fit.
It would be.
What's your recommendation?
What's that?
It would be a
What
variance.
is Justin's recommendation?
If the fire department's willing to waive, if there's some legal way to make sure that we're not liable, that when the building burns down and we only produce 600 gallons out of the hydrant, that we're not liable for that, then the modeling is. It doesn't matter to me about the modeling. The mainline extension request, Yeah, I get that's just that's a standard way we do things. It's just and it's really the board making sure that what we're accepting because the board is accepting that risk and liability on behalf of all the customers. If you want to waive that duty, I guess I'm not sure if I would think that's prudent, but that'd be kind of more. That's not an engineering question. That's more of a board duty than anything else. So I'm fine with that, but that's now becomes more of a legal question than it does an engineering question in my mind. And as Mike had said about the valves, I would like to keep as much of the infrastructure out from under the highway as possible. Once there's a 10-inch deck on top of that, finding any leak is going to be next to impossible. Fixing any leak is going to be extremely expensive. So it looks to me like we're going to be putting in about I don't know, it looks like about 900 feet of line under the highway. It's a lot of, it's going to be done correctly. It's going to be done with very good pipe. It probably won't start leaking in our lifetime, but at some point it becomes a problem. Stuff does break down and it's going to increase a operational cost to the district maybe 40 years from now, but it's going to be at some point. And at this point here, we're not getting a whole lot for it. A direct benefit. We're certainly getting benefit that we're protecting downtown and we're part of the community. We want to do that, but we're certainly not getting any capital investment fees. We're not getting any increased in rates and anything like that. But so I would like to keep as much of it out underneath that highway deck as possible, which is only a couple of valves.
Yeah, on the new stuff, obviously, we can do that. On the stuff where we're having to live tap into existing pipes, we won't have that opportunity, but for the new stuff, we would be able to. So the 400 block, we would be able to keep the valves in the sidewalks if that's what you want.
So when can we get engineered plans?
Probably next week. I mean, we're gonna have to get them fast, so.
Okay.
Justin, I think your answer was good. I think I understand your answer to Bill's question. What do you need from the board? A couple of quick things, and I guess only you can answer this one, Justin. Is the old altitude valve / gate valve still in on 3rd Street, or did we install a true functioning altitude valve there a few years ago?
I am unaware of an altitude valve on 3rd Street.
Say again?
I'm unaware of one on 3rd Street.
Okay. And another, just thinking outside the box, this may not be possible, may be silly, but I'll bring it out. I want to say slip lining, but that's not correct. Mike, what do you call it when you bore under a highway or whatever with a 12-inch pipe and then you put an 8-inch in there? What's that called?
Sleeve it.
Yeah. Is that, for instance, if the town were to take over the ownership of this stuff, would sleeving it?
I'd rather not on a hydrant. I mean,
Because of hammer?
yeah, when you open those things up, things move, so.
Yeah, that's hard to do, and there's some pretty significant requirements from CDOT with that, and that'd be hard to do on a line that side. For instance, we are sleeving all of our connections, which are 1-inch poly. Those are being sleeved, but they don't have nearly the water mass that this is going to have. And if there's a fire, typically people turn that hydrant on pretty damn quick. Whether we like them to or not, that's the way it's going to be. So
this question's for Robert.
Mhm.
How soon can the fire district provide us with a letter that releases us of all obligations or all legal risk for approving this when it doesn't meet the fire code?
So I think with that be something I'd have to just get with our attorney to draw up, just be able to make sure we're all on the same page with that. I mean, the biggest thing is, once we go through, and the big difference with this with flows is, in fact, it's not new development. This is in addition to the system, and that's why, we're willing to accept pretty much whatever we can get, just because that's a benefit for that whole area. So I can get with him to draw that up and for you guys to review.
Can we get that within a week, do you think?
Hopefully.
Here's also here's what I would suggest on that in essence of time. Your attorney knows our attorney. I would have them work on that together because it takes a week. We get it. We send it to our attorney. Our attorney looks at it, says, get it back and make those changes. I would just have those guys work it out together. I think that'll save time. That'd be my recommendation to our board and to the fire chief.
Yeah, I think, if they know each other, that makes it a lot better. And I can reach out to Dino and ask him to do that. I don't know if they've made contact before, but I'm sure they.
They know each other. They know each other.
Special district world, everybody can.
So, am I hearing that we really need no action from this board tonight, other than directing staff and our attorneys to start talking as quickly as they can?
I think the only thing might be the modeling, if modeling's not gonna be required. That you would have to grant that variance, is that right, Justin or Renee?
It is,
Yes, that's a.
Yeah, can the staff authorize that waiver, or is that a board decision?
It would be a variance from your rules and regulations.
Okay, so we'd have to make that decision.
But we're gonna have to meet anyway again after the attorneys talk. So couldn't.
Right, I mean, we can give them the clear sense of the board that provided we get, waiver documentation from the fire district that, immunizes us against what the eventual fire flows might be, that we're going to waive the modeling requirement. I mean, but I don't think, or we could, waive the modeling requirement dependent upon receiving, these guarantees next week,
Like the second approach and waive the.
Am I correct in saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good case because, this fire flows and fire protection and the cooperation between the town, county, fire district, and PAWS, we could fight about this for 30 years, or we can just start drawing some clear lines of responsibility, and that'll work for all of us. This might be a good test case right here.
So we could make a motion tonight that if the staff receives a letter that our attorney approves and that protects the district, in a sense, we don't need the modeling if we have that letter, because what the modeling was going to show is what the flows were going to be. And if the flows don't matter and we get legal protection around that.
Well, you'd want to talk to Marcus again on that.
So we would want to talk to Marcus on
I
that?
think you'd want to talk to Marcus again on that one, because we've had quite a few conversations with him and all the best letters in the world, and wouldn't have completely absolved PAWS. And Marcus will tell you that, but you should hear that from him. I think another point to bring up, that if I don't want PAWS to be blamed for slowing down the CDOT project, right? We have our processes in place.
I'll be blamed.
We have our processes in place to minimize the liability of the district and to ensure that the infrastructure that we have works, right? I'll throw it back out there. You don't have to involve PAWS, except to the extent that Justin will help you figure out how to extend your service lines to get the hydrants that you need. And we're happy to help to the extent that I can lend you Art, except that he lives at the CDOT project. So if you really need to ask him a question, you need to go down there. Sure, he has a tent down there, but that would be your fastest track.
Definitely.
Yeah. I guess my concern would be, we're doing some lateral lines across the highway from your main line. And that would be town owned. And then the loop around the 400 block, which actually does benefit PAWS as well, because it provides backbone around your current infrastructure. That would be town owned. And it just seems like some of the hydrants are town maintained and some of the hydrants are gonna be PAWS maintained. That seems complicated from my perspective. I think we're willing to do anything to provide better fire protection downtown, but I wanna make sure it's actually a realistic. I mean, town's not in the water business, obviously, you guys are. For me, it makes more sense that you own that infrastructure. And we are installing the right pipe, right? It's gonna be, that pipe, I don't know what the lifespan is, but certainly things can happen.
80 years,
How many?
80 years.
80 years.
But we haven't seen the specs or anything, or we own the specs. It might help do them, but we haven't seen.
Also, just to let you know, we're actually requiring this to be above our specs.
Yeah.
Because it's under that deck, we're going to require HDPE pipe, which is more expensive, but it's a hell of a lot better product as well. So we're actually going to require them to go above and beyond our specs somewhat.
And just so I'm a little more clear, James, the section of pipe from Goodman's a half block into the backside of the old high school there, is that the one you're talking about? That benefits PAWS just as much as the town?
Well, I think there's benefit because we're providing a full loop there from the bell tower onto the 400 block along the street frontage there and then back to that alley line. So we're providing a loop around the street frontage and they both connect with that water alley.
Yeah, okay, I forgot about the pipe in the alley.
It's a benefit, but there's some liability associated with it.
Understand.
Significant amount.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what if in this agreement or in this letter, you were to use anecdotal or we'll use kind of experienced knowledge of the system, maybe a flash test of the flow rate of one or two relevant hydrants, the fire district would put a number to what they would find ultimately acceptable in the absence of this modeling, the result might be, and the town would then in this agreement say, should the fire district determine that the flows are not adequate after this construction project, the town will be responsible, should it choose, to actually provide the infrastructure to get those fire flows up to whatever the fire district determines should be the flows.
I'd say in that case, we would just paint the hydrants black if they're not meeting any specs, right? Because a black color says, hey, this fire hydrant doesn't meet spec, right? I don't think we would improve any more infrastructure, bring more water downtown. I think we would just paint the fire hydrants black.
And we would have.
Not ideal, right?
No, it's not ideal.
And the public hates to see a black fire hydrant, but we're bringing $1.4 million to the table to improve the fire protection downtown. And so we are definitely invested in this project, not just fire hydrants, right? The whole project. And I realize there's liability, you're accepting infrastructure. We do it all the time too. We accept roads and sidewalks and trails, sewer lines. So we understand your concern, but we're not in the water business. So it doesn't make sense for me for the town to accept that, the infrastructure, just like,
my recommendation was not that you accept the infrastructure. I would point out that when you guys do business and you accept infrastructure and projects, you are extremely meticulous about your process of doing that. And it isn't done the way we're perhaps doing it today. All I was saying is that if we did away with, if we said we don't need the modeling, the fire district were to say that we'll accept, is obviously this whole project is completed. You have the new, without the modeling, and you have the new fire hydrants, and they're flowing at 400. That would be an issue. And then we haven't done modeling. And then who is responsible for the infrastructure to get more water to those hydrants? Now, I don't see that happening. I mean, if the anecdotal evidence is they're running at 1,000 and the entire system is going to have its arterial sclerosis fixed, they're probably going to run it much higher than 1,000. But I'm just saying, as a backup, what if we decide we don't need modeling? We're not even going to delay you guys with the main line extension. We just want some assurance that if this is all done, and there needs to be some additional, water infrastructure to provide more water to those hydrants, that, the town would do that. I mean, how much risk do you want us to take? We're willing to, if we're willing to.
I would go back to the fire department. I mean, to me, if the fire department's willing to accept whatever flows these will produce, I mean, it is what it is. Again.
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying if the fire department were to change their mind when they see the results.
They would never do
You
that.
can't speak for the fire department.
Well, I mean, that way, but often we're in the same place we were, but, I mean, there is some advantage with the modeling. I mean, if there's only gonna be 250 gallons per minute coming out of a hydrant, it's not worth the expense of doing it. But I think with what we've got down there, we don't have that. We'd like to know the flows. But we're really kind of looking on that, 100, 200 block of, we're running a time frame of doing modeling for those hydrants.
So Justin, can we model just the 100 and 200 blocks?
Well, just go flow a hydrant, go flow the hydrant
Yeah.
that's on the corner of First and the highway, and it's gonna tell you.
Or
Yeah, well, that
highway on the south side.
Yeah, or the one that's on the south side of the second and high, that one's a little different, cause I think it's tapped off a different line, but it's still gonna be close.
yeah. Well,
That's
that was,
the quickest way to do it.
well,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
that was my suggestion a half hour ago, based upon how we established the 1339 for the, for the propane project. We just went to the most representative hydrant and tested it. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
Again, I'm the engineering dummy, but it doesn't look like hydrant modeling is anything like, wastewater flow modeling,
No, I'll send the guys out to do some tests on some of the hydrants that look relevant. That's a quicker way and quite possibly a more accurate way than the modeling. Bill, the issue isn't how many hydrants we're modeling. It's just, it's how long it takes plumber to get a staff member on to do a model, whether it's one hydrant or 13, it really doesn't make a difference. That's the issue with the model. It's not how many, it's the staffing limitation of our contractor. But yeah, let's do some hydrant tests.
I'm a little confused again, I guess, but if my math is right, 1.4 million, I think you said, for 19 hydrants.
For 13.
13. Well, then it's even more. It's $80,000 or $90,000 per hydrant.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
the price is brutal.
Well, my question is, and you're, I think, the expert in the room, when W.W. Clyde gave you a written bid for this, did they have specs?
Yeah, they're doing work for you guys.
They're doing the same specs for the hydrants, but they did work off of Mike's linear feet
And that included under the highway and all that stuff?
yeah.
Working in the highway is expensive, and like James said, it's gonna be even more expensive, because now with the concrete highway, you can't go out and saw cut your trench. You have to remove every panel that you touch, you have to remove the entire panel.
How wide are the panels?
10 by 10 or 10 by 12.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Gene, I'm actually, remember we have 8 crossings they're doing for us and it's 1.5 million. I'm actually surprised they're getting these 13 hydrants for 1.4.
They like us.
So if you do some quick flow tests that give you a baseline, and that gives the fire department confidence, and our lawyers and theirs quickly get together, and we waive some of the time killing processes, and that agreement, protects us from it not being $17.50 per hour, then we probably have the makings of a deal.
12 per minute, maybe?
Yeah.
Per hour, yeah.
Yeah, per minute. I'm sorry,
I
but
think we shoot per thousand. Nothing, it's just, I mentioned 1750 as being the trigger for that 500-foot spacing, anything below that, but really,
Right.
we're shooting for 1,000 would be ideal. But even 750 to 1,000 is gonna be better.
Like you said, anything is better than nothing.
Yes,
Because what is an inch and 3/4 run? 200 gallons?
so our inch and 3/4 nozzles go 160 gallons a minute.
Okay.
And we usually run 2 of those on a base of fire. You know, which is not a ton, but.
Okay. What are our next steps for, just in light of their, scheduling
I'm
time?
personally am a bit hesitant until I hear from Marcus.
Okay. Do you
Can
want,
we schedule, so Mike can get something in a week?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Maybe,
I'll start working on the plan right away. And like I said, what we're gonna do is, we're just gonna take CDOT's utility plan and we're gonna superimpose the water lines and the laterals right on there.
how about if you get the engineered drawings and you get something back from Marcus that both attorneys are happy with? We schedule, within a couple of days, we schedule a lunchtime meeting or something
a special meeting
Special
for
meeting.
late next week?
for late next week.
If I can get all of that accomplished.
If
with the
all that,
attorneys?
if those two things get accomplished,
Okay.
does that, does that
That
sound,
works for me.
sound okay?
Shall I?
What do you think, Glenn?
Yeah, that seems fine. I mean, it seems like we're going to be dealing probably with many projects that maybe don't quite meet the the 1750 gallons a minute, and we're going to have to work out a way to kind of come to some agreements that protect everybody.
Yeah,
So
and I think, like you said, this is a really incredible opportunity. So thank you very much for coming to our meeting.
If we're gonna send one of our guys out to test a hydrant, could you provide one of your guys or you or whomever you
Yeah,
want?
absolutely. If we know the time, we can make sure somebody's out there.
Okay, we can coordinate
That'd be
that.
great.
Okay. I'll tell Justin, I don't think he's paying attention.
Justin, do you have any other suggestions or comments? Because what I'm hearing is all we need to do tonight at this meeting is direct staff and attorneys to get moving. And when there's something to decide, we'll call a special meeting and decide.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to move forward. I'm not sure what the lead time items are, the hydrants and all that stuff, but maybe something that the town wants to look into and see if they can get that stuff ordered. It seems premature to do that because there's somewhat of a risk with that, but that may be the bottleneck is the time it takes to get the pieces and parts for all these hydrants. I'm not sure how readily available everything is. That's just a
think-
suggestion.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, because we haven't ordered anything yet, but, it would be good to know if the fire flow test could be conducted soon, because that would give us some confidence, and I think the urgency would be ordering the materials we need for that 100 and 200 block first. Because once they get that done, it'll be actually some time before they get the underground infrastructure on the 300 block, and certainly the 400 block is gonna be a long project as well. So I think the priority would be ordering what we need for the 100 and 200 blocks. So if that can happen in short order and we have some confidence, we'll get everything ordered for those 2 blocks first.
I'll get the guys doing flow tests. I can't say when it's going to be done because with connections and line breaks, but when there's time, we'll get that done. And as we get flow tests done, I'll just send out an email to everybody involved saying what it was.
And give the PFPD hopefully a day's notice or whatever when we're gonna do that test.
If they want that, but that may be a little difficult because I think when the guys have time, I'll just send them out to do it. Between
Okay.
water breaks and stuff like that. If the fire department wants to be there during those tests, I'll have them call you if you guys would like that.
We'll just do the best we can.
Yeah, that'd be good. And if we can make it out there, great. If not, we try.
Yeah, we're pretty good at showing up quickly, so.
Right, so staff has direction. Any further thoughts or
We'll want to work, and I don't know, Justin, who you want me to talk to, but since we're gonna be using the HDPE, we'll want to, in some fashion, whether it's details or narrative, just describe the pieces and parts that we envision being in place, so that if we're going, for example, from a live tap to HDPE to the fire hydrant, how are we looking, you know, what are there specific materials that you want included to make the connections between the various components?
Yeah, talk to Art and or Sean regarding that, and they'll give you the exact make and model. Yeah, also be prepared downtown, some of those, if we got to turn water lines off, some of those valves don't hold very well. You
Right.
may be required to put an insertion valve in here or there. I don't know, but it may ought to be done because this is kind of tying into the new stuff, but that's something you should probably be aware of as well.
Okay.
You know, especially up along 4th Street zone, that may cause you problems. I think everything else we're doing already, but that's an issue we're coming up against right now downtown.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else,
I
folks?
would just add, I really appreciate your understanding and support for this project. We take this as a rare opportunity, and this is our time to put these improvements in. So I do appreciate the board, staff. Renee's been helpful, Justin's been helpful, Art, all the crew has been really helpful through this process as we sort through where, what, when, and all that. So thank you very much, and we appreciate your support. We've got our marching orders. We'll start working on our end, and yeah, please, when you schedule a special meeting, if we're invited, please invite us, and I'll definitely be there as well.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And then could somebody send me the information of your attorney so I can give her the heads up who you'd be talking to?
Yeah, I have your email, so I'll
Yeah,
just send
you
you
just-
my attorney's contact.
That'd be perfect. That way I can give him a heads up that we'll be
Is that
contacting.
for you? Okay,
Okay,
awesome. That'll be great.
perfect.
He had mentioned to us that he knows,
Okay,
and works with him.
and he knows pretty well around that.
Yeah,
You know, around himself.
yeah. So he's,
Yeah,
I think getting them together would be great.
yes.
Really great. Then we can move from that into fire flow. When you guys, because we're also working on the fire flow when you guys set the fire flow as prescribed by either yourselves or the code or however you do it. And then you set that doesn't provide what you originally said. So I think Marcus has some concerns with that too. And he was wanting to actually get board approval to reach out to Dino to discuss that with him. That's not how the direction of the executive session went at the time, but that's one of the goals. he was trying to do. Because working together is much better.
Yeah,
But I look forward to that. And again, thank you for coming and supporting the town project.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Renee, do we have a copy of the resolution yet?
Yeah, but we should take Mr. Osborne because he was actually scheduled for 5 o'clock. And this kind of, the policy has kind of changed a little bit, I think. So let me go get that off the printer. But we should really take Mr. Osborne next. I think he's been waiting. Thanks again.
And change the public hearing.
Change the order and do the 9 rams.
Well, we didn't have any public except for Mr. Osborne and he didn't.
I guess we can. I don't know if it's necessary.
You can make a motion to.
There you go.
Yeah, I make a motion that we move forward to item 9, which is consideration of petition for inclusion at 1061 Cloman Boulevard, Goshen Springs, Colorado 81047, Intermountain Propane LLC.
I think number 8 by law has to come before that.
You're correct. Number 8.
We have a motion.
So we're dealing with the.
We have to have a public hearing
Oh, we have to have a public hearing.
and then we discuss and approve or disapprove the.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, James.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Thanks, Jim.
Go ahead.
What to do the public hearing?
Yeah,
Yes.
to do the public hearing.
Okay. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Glenn?
No?
Only discussion I would have would be, are we gonna have an extra copy? The public hearing is on the resolution, correct?
The
That
public
she's printing out?
hearing is,
She's printing out?
is the public's opportunity to comment. That's all it is.
Comment on the resolution.
On the.
No, on the inclusion.
On the inclusion.
Yes, okay.
Intermountain program.
Okay,
Okay, hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Motion passes. So let's open up the public hearing. I hope I'm gonna do this right in Renee's absence. Aaron, if I'm not.
I'll do my best.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open up the public,
Yes, sir.
public
Public hearing. It's
hearing.
a public hearing on the inclusion of 1061
Yep,
Cloman Boulevard.
and Michael, since you're public, talk to us.
I have nothing. I just want this to be done.
Just so you know, we have quite an extensive, in our board packet, everything that,
Letter.
that we believe we need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll close the public hearing.
Okay.
And now, on number 9, we have on the agenda, consideration of petition for inclusion at 1061 Cloman Boulevard, Intermountain Propane LLC.
These are for the resolution and everything, but I want to continue this discussion. And we can provide you the updates on the project itself.
Maybe I can just read the board agenda summary sheet. Would that make sense?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read
You
that?
can, or I can present that, it's fine, Jean. It's up to you, whatever you would like.
Well, it says, please find attached the petition for inclusion and related materials for 1061 Cloman Boulevard, Intermountain Propane. The fire district is requiring the petitioner to install a new fire hydrant on the 8-inch main line that runs along the property with 1,750 gallons per minute fire flow. Steve Omer noted in the water model summary that while the existing hydrant should meet required flows, that capacity is expected to diminish further along the 8-inch main line. This is the requested location for the new hydrant. When staff and PFPD tested the existing hydrant, the flow was 1,339 GPM with the booster pump at the airport, of course, running to support that flow. A letter documenting the testing is included. PAWS's attorney will be prepared to discuss this item today, which we did. So as a part of our board packet, we have the checklist and everything's been done. Then we have Plummer and Associates, Steve Omer, I assume, his complete analysis of the water model that was ran. And then we have an interesting letter from the fire marshal at the Pagosa Fire Protection District that I don't know, it's kind of weird. I guess I'll leave it at that for the moment. Sewer modeling has also been done for the project, and just so everybody knows, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, the entire Cloman Boulevard sewer system is small diameter pressure sewer. It's not gravity, no manholes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I didn't get to read Steve's entire multi-page. Was that Steve's or Davis's?
Davis's is multi-page, or it's bigger.
Oh, Davis did the sewer model, I'm saying, yeah,
Yeah.
not Steve Omer. We recommend PAWS reviews, design, documentation, construction specs, including product submittals and contractor qualifications for the proposed product. Please contact us with any questions or comments. So the petition for inclusion, all the checks have been paid. Things have been signed, so sounds like you have some input. Renee?
Yeah, so from the staff perspective, we just had a concern that we've conveyed to Mr. Osborne and his colleague regarding the new fire hydrant that the fire department's requiring them to install on the 8-inch. And that is, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, is a concern because of what Steve Omer put in his letter regarding the diminished flow capacity with on that 8-inch. And as it goes down, the flow, the pressure capacity is diminished. So that's exactly where she wants to put the line.
Well,
But Justin can speak.
we know the new hydrant's not gonna meet the 1750 that the
Yeah.
fire department initially said they needed. So in response to that, the fire department wrote the letter that Gene responded to as interesting or curious or whatever, and I agree with that. I don't really know what that letter says. So there's some confusion with what the fire department is actually going to require at this point, but on my part.
Yeah. So am I right that the water modeling came back pretty clean? The implications are not that great on the system. The wastewater model, there's an implication in that 1 12-inch pipe, but that's a that's a pipe that is nearing its capacity anyway. It's not really, the onus is not on this particular 1.5 you use here. So are you happy before we get into fire flow, on the water model and the sewer model, are you guys happy with the results there?
I have no concerns.
No concerns. Okay, so then we just move on to, this is an industrial, it's one of the more industrial projects, a propane distribution facility, storage facility, and code would require the IPC 2009, I think, because this is county property, would require 1750, and we're only showing 1339. So the board has to decide how it wants to deal with that, because this is my opinion is that I'm willing to follow the lead of the fire department, but the fire department has to give us the marching orders and not a kind of complicated, self-contradictory kind of gobbledygook letter that says that the standard is 1750 GPM for a duration of 2 hours. You've hit this. We will accept this so you can get your modeling done and move forward with your project, but the 2015 International Fire Code is requiring 1750 GPM. So we're not getting, if the fire department wants to issue a waiver using their background and expertise and say this test resulting at 1339 satisfies our requirement, and so we approve this project, then the board could decide to just rely upon the expertise of the fire department. I would like it if the fire department actually had a stamp of approval and actually give us a letter and stamped it approved by the fire department. And then we can let the fire department take the lead on fire flow issues. And the PAWS board, it's not our expertise, it's their expertise. And I would like to respect that, but I also need them to, just speaking for myself, to give us, say, we're granting a waiver, we find this flow to be satisfactory, and not give us this letter, which, I don't know, we're going to include a property that's 400 gallons per minute deficient. And then I don't see how it's going to just improve. So I don't know how other board members feel, but I'm not going to vote for an inclusion of a property that's not satisfying the PFPD standard until the PFPD says this result satisfies our standard.
I agree, and for the better than the past hour, we've been discussing and heard pretty much everybody say something's better than nothing. 1,300 gallons a minute is way better than nothing. So I would find it very difficult to believe that the fire department is gonna have any problem with giving that unequivocal, stamped, no liability to pause letter. I would find it hard to believe they're not gonna be happy to do that. And so let's cut to the chase. Can we accept this inclusion tonight with that stipulation, or should we wait until we get that letter?
Contingent upon receiving a satisfactory, letter regarding the variance to the fire flow.
I'd rather get the letter first.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to see the letter.
because if it's gonna be anything close to what this letter is, we're wasting, I mean,
Yeah.
this is as clear as mud. I mean, there's nothing in here they're using words like ask, we're gonna ask them to do that. No, I need the fire department to say, this is exactly how it's gonna be. This is how it's gonna be. We accept this flow as it is, guaranteed, no responsibility to pause. And then I have no problem moving forward with the project.
Right.
It's,
Because even the final sentence of the letter comes right back to, it's very clear, the 2015 International Fire Code is requiring the minimum flow of 1750 GPM. Therefore, it is in your best interest to research how this can be achieved if the pressure does not improve.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's essentially stating 1750 is what you're going to have to hit eventually.
These calls they look to be a newish condition, but
we're going to, be working on a very similar letter between the two attorneys for the town.
Yeah,
Right.
So could we, I really feel like these are tied together, these two issues that the board is taking on.
Very much so.
And I think ultimately what Marcus is trying to get to and Justin's been asking for is a more of a template of a letter that's approved by our attorney. And now that we're hopefully in a better position with the fire department and hopefully working with their attorney directly, we could get to a satisfactory letter regarding their variance from fire code.
Yeah, it could be a simple letter. It could be a few sentences with a stamp.
So if we get to
Approved.
that letter
Yeah.
and it's next Thursday, is it okay if you're not comfortable with approving the petition for inclusion tonight, would the board be willing to also consider the petition again next Thursday if you get a letter that you can look
Absolutely,
at?
yes.
Glenn?
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the only outstanding issue.
Would another several days, week, two, kill your plans? Because I hope you get the,
on for like 7 months.
I hope you get the impression that we want you to succeed.
I really do.
And, but we've got to cross every T, dot every I. I should know this and I apologize for not, but you basically are putting in an admin building and a tank farm, right?
Yeah, the building's already going up right now. The walls are up.
Okay,
The hydrant got delivered last week. It's ready to go in.
okay.
Just curious, how many gallons of propane are you guys gonna be keeping out there?
120,000. There's 430s.
Okay.
And there's just FYI, in fact, I'm not even sure that they're in the district. Bob's LP has a tank farm several hundred yards from my house. Right across, instead of going all the way to Coleman Boulevard and taking that, back up about 300 yards, and you know exactly where it is. Bob's LP has a huge probably 100,000 gallons worth of propane. And then, you know, lots of small tanks sitting there. In fact, one time when I was acting fire chief, because fire chief went on vacation or whatever, they were blowing off some extra gas and there was a flame shooting 20 feet in the air and nobody knew it. So I had to haul buns up there and figure out what's going on, and only to find out, yeah, we do this all the time. You know, so what you're putting up with what the fire department is suggesting is 1,000 times better than what the other one is.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it sounds like we need no official action.
Just for staff direction, and I believe I've received that, so
Okay.
I will be in touch.
Okay,
Okay.
and we also paid someone to come to do a fire analysis, and he worked with the chief, and they signed off on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we just need to make sure our liability is.
Our problem with that is nobody asked us, or no, we don't need to be asked because we don't do fire. But the town or the county, who's ever in charge, does ask us, will you serve these people? And if there's any liability to us saying yes, then we would have to say no. But as long as the fire department in writing
That's
says,
the issue.
we're cool.
Yeah, and I think Chief Bertram made it clear tonight that he wants to work together.
Yeah.
I think he's honest about that, and I see this working out.
I think I was pleasantly surprised how that went, considering, so, yeah.
Yeah, and this may sound silly, but I am a big fan of a literal stamp of approval on a letter.
Okay, well, let's see about, I'll try to
Really?
get you a stamp.
I might be medieval, but you know, there's a reason why.
Yeah, we should get him.
I'm even more in favor of that than you are, Glenn.
Yeah. Just a nice little hand embosser. It really looks great, and it, you know.
There you go.
Or do I need to talk to the chief and why is it deal?
Okay, let's move on. I think we've got our marching orders.
So,
So we'll let you know
yeah, I will be in touch with you.
when that next meeting will be.
So what went on here tonight was kind of unanticipated because we hadn't had really good communication with the fire department in recent couple of years. So that was really good. I'm gonna reach out to our attorney and have him talk to the fire department's attorney. And they're gonna work on like the form letter that is, will be hopefully a significant improvement from the letter that Kelly provided, that our attorney will be satisfied with. And then, once we all agree on that terminology, then they can stamp that. And then you'll be on the agenda, like kind of right after that letter. So they approve that, and then the fire department says, yes, we stamped that, and then petition for inclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Hopefully all those parts and pieces work. I'll work really hard to get all that together, and hopefully we can get it by next Thursday.
Okay.
That sounds like a
Thank
plan.
you. And thank you too, Joetta.
She's in Wisconsin right now.
Oh,
And another thing, if the bid ever comes up for the propane and Hatcher, we'd like to have the opportunity to bid on that.
Thank you.
I think we're required to go out to open bid.
Do you
And
know when that's coming up, or?
no, I don't.
Well,
Justin,
they can make-
do you know when when we would go out for bid again for propane services up at Hatcher?
I don't know. I'd have to review the contract we have, so I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can have somebody look at that.
We'll do our best to make sure you keep your eyes on the legals in the paper and stuff too, but
Yeah, we kind of give you a heads up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you.
But I'll.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thanks for coming, Chief.
Thank you.
hey, who wants to give us a fire hydrant exercise program update?
Oh,
We wanna
so
go
do
back
we
to
want to get
sciences.
back to
Oh,
these, the resolution that Marcus
yes. We
that
do.
you discussed at length, and I think these are kind of two parallel efforts, but it may be in the best interest of the overlap of before we get to the satisfactory letter, and before we have the relationship with the fire department that we're seeking, that we do still if you're satisfied with Marcus's revisions from the executive session on the resolution and this letter. If you want, we can, also put it off until, next week, if we have a meeting next week, so you can have more time to read through it. Or you can vote on it tonight.
So my question would be, this doesn't hurt to have this as well as the letter template.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So it wouldn't hurt to add this to our operating standards. This letter might not be necessary if we get a good letter from Dino, from their attorney.
Right.
But it wouldn't hurt to send this letter as well.
It's more of an on notice letter. We're on notice, right? That's how it operates.
I think these updates to the rule and the letter that goes along with it are really only beneficial in conjunction with good letters from the fire department. Nothing that we can do internally is going to be as good as the fire department giving us some real affirmative response besides the stuff that they've given us in the past.
Well, and this letter is essentially telling an applicant, you need to go get that letter.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would move to approve resolution 2025-04, resolution regarding fire flows and residual pressures.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That was easy.
Do you want the letter to be voted on?
It's a separate item.
It's a separate item.
Do I have it as
It's a
separate item?
separate
Oh, if I have it as separate item, then yes, please.
Okay, I would move to approve the clause letter, sanitation district letterhead letter to Deer property owner and Pagosa Fire Protection District. With the understanding that we may not be sending this to the Fire Protection District if we have an understanding with them and we're providing a template. This might just go to the property owner rather than to both parties. So that's my motion, that but it may not need to go out to the fire district if we're cooperating.
But even if we are cooperating,
It alerts them that this is coming your way
yeah,
for
I think
consideration.
full transparency, they need a copy.
Okay. Well,
As long as that's not in opposition to your.
I just said it might not be necessary.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll approve
Yeah,
it as it is now.
I'll second your motion as.
Got a motion and a second to accept this, I'm calling it a template regarding the fire district and our attorney's suggestions. Do we hear any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, now let's see if I can get my agenda correctly here. We are done with, I think now we're talking about fire hydrant exercising program, aren't we? An update? Is that Renee or Justin or both or?
I can do that
Okay,
if that's where we're at. So as of Monday, they have completed exercising 581 of the 1,125 hydrants we have. We're on schedule to be done about the middle of June, so well ahead of the 12-week schedule we had originally thought. Out of that 581, 7 hydrants have needed substantial repair or rebuild or replacement. So 7 out of almost 600 have been problematic. That's not to say that they haven't made notes that some need painting, some need new gaskets, some minor stuff, but major problems that we've seen has been 7 out of 581 thus far. Now that's been in the uptown area. Next week, they'll start to get into town. I would assume that 7's going to go up because those hydrants are older as we go into town. But that's where we are now. It's going very well, I think. Like I said, we're well ahead of schedule. We haven't seen substantial problems to this point. And hopefully we'll continue not to see problems to this point. Once this program is done, we're documenting whether hydrants need painting or new gaskets or whatever they need. And once this is all done, we'll take that data and come up with a plan to fix the minor corrections that need to be fixed. And based on how many problems we have, I think we'll sit down and discuss how often we should have this program. Should it be done every year, every 5 years, every, so much, if it continues at this, I think every 5 years is plenty to do it. If everything goes to hell in the next 2 weeks, we may want to increase that. So we'll wait for all that data to come in, then make our decisions.
That's a great result.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm surprised and happy with it.
Yeah, I had a chance to go and follow those guys around. I caught them up there in Hatcher, and man, they were so professional. They were knowledgeable. Every question I asked, they immediately had an answer for me. They just seemed like we really did a good job on picking that company. I'm very happy with what I've seen with those guys.
And I would suggest work with Josh Pike on there, but I would suggest with you guys here that, since this was such an important subject with all of our customers and the whole community, that we make this update public in some shape or form. How many have been done? How many are left? What percentage needed replacement repairs? And just, pretty much exactly what Justin just said. Or we could wait till the end and then put out a report. But, I think it's just good to let people know.
This report was shared with the joint meeting last Monday of the town county, just with them.
Yeah, I think all of Archuleta County needs to, it wouldn't hurt to share with them.
Let them know that for once the government project is ahead of schedule.
Did you want in a press release?
You just have, press release should be good.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, if nothing else, do you have any talking points, Justin?
Not really. I've been gone for a while. I apologize. I don't have, and maybe Aaron has this. I don't have the water loss. I think I got the email. I just don't think I got it opened. Do you have any update on the water loss, Aaron?
Just a general comment on it. It's down. Not substantially, but it's trending downward from 2 months ago.
I wish you'd say substantial.
We're trending towards.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're going the right direction.
Justin, I was so worried that you were going to pull us 7 years into bed on us. So it's great to see you back.
I had a wonderful time. It was hard getting on that 15-hour flight back. I can tell you that. Snowball, I'll give you an update on Snowball. Last week we actually ran power into the building. So we are starting to run power to equipment and starting the turning things on. So and that went well. No smoke escaped. So everything's going very well with that. Roof's on, doors are on. We're starting to run equipment up where we're at now with that. So it's on schedule. Things are going well with that. Do I have any?
You want to speak to the
volunteer? Yeah, that's true. So I think right after I left, we went into voluntary water restrictions. And then my understanding is while I was gone, it rained and snowed, which could have kicked us out of voluntary restrictions. They stayed on it. And based on what's going on right now, we're kind of going in voluntary and out of voluntary. Since voluntary is allowable by me, I've kept it involuntary. I don't see a reason to go in and out of it every week, and I'd like to continue that. And hopefully we won't go into stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. But right now we're in voluntary, and although at this particular moment we may be out of it officially the way it is, but the river's fluctuating so much right now that I just don't want to go in and out of it all the time. I don't think it's really voluntary. It's not really a onerous to anybody because it's voluntary. So my plan is just to stay involuntary unless we completely go out of it or we have to go into a higher stage. With that, on that same note, because of the snow and rains we've gotten, we have water flowing back to Hatcher now. So they had turned us off, and now we have 1 CFS going into Hatcher now. Hatcher's about 6 inches down. Hopefully, we can keep that on till Hatcher's full again. So we're in much better shape than I anticipated be on at the end of May. So I think that's good news.
All other lakes are full?
All the other lakes are full. On that note, I might as well let you know, come September, October, we're going to be replacing Lift Station 7. Lift Station 7 is located pretty much in Lake Pagosa. It's right on the edge. To do that work, we're going to have to lower the lake probably about 4 to 6 feet. I've already let the PLPA know that. People are not going to be happy with that, but it has to be done. Lift Station 7 is probably at least 50 years old, and it needs some TLC. So we may catch some flack on that, but it needs to be done.
When does that happen?
September or October. We don't have the exact date yet. I'll let everybody know when we know that, but that's kind of what we're looking at. We want to do it in the fall. And
I think everybody's pretty much gone back to Texas by October.
Yeah, hopefully.
Just strictly out of curiosity, how do you lower the lake that far?
Open a valve.
Is there a valve that's underneath?
Yeah, there's a valve. We could drain the lake. We can drain the lake till it's totally dry. We have that ability. It just flows down into Village Lake, which we can open a valve and flow it down into Lake Forest and drain them all if we so thought that was necessary. So yeah, we have that ability.
Do we have the capability in Cassell or whatever to, because some people just don't pay attention or, whatever the reason, to pull up all property owners around the lake and the people that are most affected? Could we send them a letter?
We can definitely do that. We can actually do a reverse 911 and let them know, and certainly PLPOA is going to let them know as well.
Good. Do you plan on keeping the 6 overflow vaults active, or are you going to 86 them?
That's one of the reasons we got to lower it. Those are filled with lake water now. We need to get that water out of there and seal those so that they don't fill with lake water. So they will stay there, but they'll be sealed and actually work.
I've just got to ask this, I guess. Do we need them?
They're there. I think we should maintain them. If something happened and that overflowed, I'd rather overflow into those 6 vaults than into the lake.
But you're also replacing the Smith and Loveless with Flight, I assume?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And you have a transfer switch, so you could run it by mobile generator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just wonder how much redundancy can we financially justify, but that's just me.
It's certainly a factor of safety, but overall, I think it's an inexpensive. Like I said, we're going to seal them. It's probably going to be in the range of tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. This whole project is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 600,000 or 400,000, isn't it?
435.
435. So it's a piece of that, but it's not a substantial piece.
All right. Anything else?
No.
I think that's it for me.
Well, tell your daughter good luck, and do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So made.
So ordered. I just had to do that.
Seconded.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Is that
Thanks,
the first
everyone.
time you've done that?